I've talked a lot about demo discs here on this channel, whether it's for my repeat series or whether it's opening up brand new demo discs, whether they're in magazines or whether they're sealed for this particular series. Demo discs and I go back a ways. I remember when I first got my PlayStation, or even before then, when I pre-ordered my PlayStation from Electronics Boutique, I got this music sampler CD that had Korn and some other artists on there. But when I put that music sampler CD into my brand new PlayStation, wow, it became a developer demo showing some of the graphics capabilities of the PlayStation, including a really cool moving dinosaur that was texture mapped so awesomely for 1995. It was mind-blowing. I've also talked about the PlayStation Pix demo in the past, the first demo disc, like legit demo disc, that had video previews of Ridge Racer and Air Combat, and also playable version of Jumping Flash, which made me very excited about that game. And that was just the beginning for demo discs. We would see demo discs sent from Sony, whether it's part of PlayStation Underground or for games that would be coming out in the future. I remember a Wild Arms 2 demo disc, for example, or a Metal Gear Solid demo disc. Demo discs were a big part of the PlayStation era, and this leaked into the PlayStation 2 era as well, with demo discs not only for individual games, but also jam packs that you could buy, or you could get discs as part of the official PlayStation magazine. So what does that have to do with this episode? Do I have another demo disc to open? Well, yeah, I do, but it's a demo disc that cost $50 back in 1996. It is a demo disc, and when you paid $50 for it, you got a free game with it. It was also the very first disc offered by a company that some of you might have heard of called Squaresoft. Yeah, that's Squaresoft, the Final Fantasy people, the Chrono Trigger people, you know, the really cool RPG people. Yeah. This was the first PlayStation offering from that company, and we were all excited when we found out that Square was jumping on board. I know that Nintendo fans were upset that Square was jumping over to the Sony bandwagon, but for me, as a Sony fan back in 1996, I was all for it. I was ready to go. So I paid $50 for this game in 1996, not giving a darn about the game that came with the demo disc, but more just for the disc itself. You probably already know the game I'm talking about that we'll be opening on Unsealed today. From September of 1996, I am, of course, talking about Tobal number 1. And yes, Final Fantasy VII sampler CD included. That's what we've got there. This lists only one disc, but there should be 2 discs in here. We'll have to see when we open it. There is the ID seal up there, so we know, at least as far as I know, this is brand new. I got it from eBay recently. We still have the hang tab on the back of the game here, and there is the artwork from Akira Toriyama on the back. This is a game that was developed, at least in part, by Dream Factory, who Square would work with later on. I believe that Dream Factory was one of the forces behind the bouncer for the PS2 as well, and I think that they had some Air Guys, I think, is another one that Dream Factory worked on, and Tobal number 2, the game, of course, the sequel to this that we never got here. So, there really isn't a lot to see on the back of the case. There are some screenshots, but there really isn't a lot in terms of words, in terms of story setup. There is a magazine snippet here from Ultra Game Players, a groundbreaking new fighting game featuring new levels of 3D freedom and a totally original quest mode. So that's really where Square came in with this, is Square had some history with RPGs, obviously, so they helped to put together a quest mode and left the fighting engine to Dream Factory, who did a pretty decent job with this, and I think we'll find out when we get to the instruction manual. But for now, let's go ahead and get this open. I actually don't have a copy of this anymore, so I am very excited to be opening this up so I can re-add this to my collection after all these years. And now we get to see if I can open this up. This is a little bit more difficult to open. There we go. So we'll take that off the top. And trying to do this. There we go. Oh. Oh my goodness. There we go. And now we have to try and take this top off. This seal. Now, this particular copy of the game looks like it was a promo copy. And the reason for that is, and you can tell when you get a promo copy of something, because there's a drill mark which is right at the top there, which shows that this was a freebie. This is a promo copy, which doesn't bother me any, as I just want the game. I'm not too worried about the condition of the case. Thankfully, though, the rest of the case is in good shape, is not cracked in any way. So when we open this up, and I really want to be careful because I don't know when these get shipped how well things hold up. So this is what you see on the inside when we open it. This is the first part. So you have the Tobal #1 disc right here. We have something from Sony, probably about PlayStation Underground, and the manual, and we'll get to that in a minute. And then we open the back, or the second section. There it is. There is the Final Fantasy demo disc right there. The reason that everyone bought this, honestly. People that I knew that were video game fans back at this time, nobody gave a darn about Tobal #1 or that it was a fighting game or that Square had anything to do with it. Everyone wanted to play Final Fantasy VII. This was a full year before the final game came out, so we were excited to be able to play this demo disc. And as well, I believe, if I remember right, there are some other things on here, and I'm going to try and turn this around. Availability of products on the sampler applied to release in Japan only. So there's a Final Fantasy VII Interactive Sampler CD with video clips of Final Fantasy Tactics, Bushido Blade, and Saga Frontier. That's what the disc looks like, just like that. And then we'll go ahead and we're going to take a look at the rest of the package here, because there is a full featured game in here. Let's go ahead first and take a look at this thing from Sony. Way cool freebies, exclusives, and lots of stuff that rocks. And when we open this sleeve, go underground. Yes, it is for PlayStation Underground. Connect to the PlayStation Underground for free stuff, cool stuff, your stuff. So you're a gamer. You are not ready. Oh, God, I love that campaign. You are not with the red E. I love that. Don't wait. Fill in this card now. Primary user's name. If under 18, give parent's name, address, apartment, blah, blah, blah. Date of birth. In the next 6 months, how many games do you purchase? There's no option for far too many. What types of games do you plan to purchase? Sports, driving, flight simulation, fighting, action, adventure, strategy, role-playing, shooter. There are phone numbers, fax numbers. Oh, my gosh. Remember when faxes were a thing? You probably don't, or a lot of you probably don't, but I sure do. And then you mailed this in, and I believe, yeah, this was postage paid. There's something you didn't see every day. You would get included in the PlayStation Underground and start getting free stuff from Sony. This is before Sony started charging for the PlayStation Underground magazine. So that is that. Let's take a look at the instruction manual here. First of all, just to call your attention to the disc here really quickly. The disc is silver with some yellow outlining. I have it turned around so you can see it better. I believe if you take the disc out, you get another look at some Toriyama artwork. I'm trying to do this without ruining the disc. There we go. There's some artwork there. And we'll take the instruction manual out here. And we'll also put the disc back in a case because I actually do plan on playing this at some point. When, I couldn't tell you, but hopefully sometime soon. Also, if you move the Final Fantasy demo disc, which I'll put to the side here for just a minute, you get a shot of the game CG, which is kind of nice. Sorry about the tap of the microphone there. All right, so let's take a look at the instruction manual, shall we? Again, this is Squaresoft's first release for the PlayStation, so that is pretty notable as well. The instruction manual is in black and white. It is not in color. Interestingly enough, I guess it's not really that interesting. There's an ad for DBZ on the back here. Catch the explosive power of Akira Toriyama, creator and designer of the settings and characters of Tobal #1, with the debut of his new animated series, Dragon Ball Z. Watch for it on TV now, it says. So the manual's in black and white. It does go through some of the characters, or all of the characters, I should say, and you can see some of the Toriyama influences in some of the artwork. The fighting game itself plays a lot like Virtua Fighter from what I remember. Again, I haven't played the game in a very long time. There is some variety to the kinds of characters. It reminds me a little bit of a cross between like Dragon Ball Z and Dead or Alive. That's probably wrong, but that's what it reminds me of. When we take a look at the back of the manual here, there's not really a lot of information. There are some credits from Square but not a lot of information. Hironobu Sakaguchi is listed as the supervisor. Akira Toriyama is the character designer, but not a lot of other information here. What I can tell you is that a lot of Squaresoft composers, including the sound people for Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy Tactics, have tracks in this game, and their names are escaping me. I'm sure you're going to correct me in the comments as we go. What's interesting about this game, also, aside from the fact that it is a fighting game, is that there is a quest mode here. We're going to look at quest mode just very briefly. We're not going to go into too much detail, as this video is already running a little bit on the long side. The mysterious Nork. That just sounds like some kind of cartoon character. So the quest mode, it says here, occurs in the deep darkness of a dungeon. Your objective is to defeat the enemies that attack you, retrieve special items with the power recovery, and locate and collect the Malmoran buried deep within. I guess that's currency. Begin yet another tournament here. Massive amounts of Malmoran are said to be hidden somewhere underground, close to where the Emperor Yudan normally resides. In the past, fighters who have ventured down below are said to have never returned. The Emperor Yudan is offering Malmoran to those who successfully locate all of the Malmoran hidden below. I'm guessing that's money. That's my guess here. So you can select a character, then you kind of walk through a map, and unfortunately they don't show a lot of screens, so you really don't know a lot about it here. There are elevators to take. You can take 180-degree turns. There are items, enemy monsters. What is the key to clearing the quest mode is one of the questions for the game Q&A. It says, when you enter the dungeon, instead of just trying to go forward in a hurry, pay attention to the posters on the wall. There may be important hidden clues written on them. You will be able to find your way if you refer to these clues as you move forward. There are traps. It doesn't say how many floors the dungeon are. Please note that some contents of the game may differ from this instruction manual. What? Okay. I didn't spend a lot of time with Tobal number 1. I gotta be honest. The only reason that I bought this game initially was to play the Final Fantasy VII demo, and then I probably played Tobal number 1 for like half an hour, and I stopped. And after playing through the Final Fantasy demo and watching the Tactics and Bushido Blade movies, I was pretty much done. What's interesting about this, of course, is just having that demo in pristine condition as I do now. There were better versions of this disc released. I believe that Squaresoft released its own demo CD later on that you didn't need to buy a full game for, that had a lot of this on there. And of course, it was the big build-up to 1997 and the release of Final Fantasy VII here in the US. And of course, the rest is history. Squaresoft probably enjoyed its best success during the PlayStation era in terms of both quality and in terms of productivity. Game after game, hit after hit, from Final Fantasy VII to Vagrant Story to Xenogears to Final Fantasy 8 and 9, even though I'm not a big Final Fantasy 8 guy, to offshoot games like Parasite Eve and Einhander. The list goes on and on. Square was just prolific during the PlayStation era, and it is really cool, to be honest, to be able to open a brand new copy of their very first release for the PlayStation and hopefully enjoy it and try and recapture some of the memories that I had way back in 1996, which as of this video is now 24 years ago. Boy, I feel like an old man. So that is a look at Tobal number 1, the very first PlayStation game that was released with a demo disc inside. There would be later games that would do this, especially on the Squaresoft side of the house. Games like Brave Fencer Musashi had a demo disc in there, for example. That's probably one of the big ones. There was also a release of, I think, Shadow Madness, which is an RPG from Crave, and they had a playable demo, I believe, of Jade Cocoon in there. So this is something that would go on and on. And then for the PlayStation 2, of course, one of the most famous ones was the release of Zone of the Enders that had the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo disc included. And that's just like this situation. Nobody cared about Zone of the Enders. Everyone cared about Metal Gear Solid 2. So, another episode of Unsealed in the books with a pretty valuable game opened up brand new on camera. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other. And until the next time,